Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be using a cheap Chinese ELM327 OBD2 interface as well as a Torque app to diagnose and hopefully fix an engine misfire. So usually you can tell if you have a misfire if your car or truck seems to sometimes it'll stutter at idle, or sometimes when you put it under load it'll sort of feel like it's kicking or bucking, almost like a transmission slip. And a lot of times this will throw a check engine light, which you can easily have scanned either with an interface like this or at a store like Advance Auto. But sometimes, for example in this truck, it doesn't ever really throw a code because it doesn't misfire often enough, like the frequency is not fast enough. So we're going to be using this interface as well as the Torque app to find out what cylinder the misfire is on and then hopefully fix it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is, of course, purchase one of these code readers. This one I got on Amazon for, it was like $15. It's generic and it'll work with most North American cars. And there's Bluetooth variants as well as USB ones, and this one just happens to be Bluetooth. So after you have that, you want to download the app. Now I'm using Torque. I know there are alternatives for iOS because Torque is not available on Apple platforms, but it shouldn't be that hard to find somebody with an Android device that they'll let you borrow. I believe the full version's like $4 or $6 or something like that, and I totally recommend just supporting these people in this pretty sweet app. So like I was saying, usually if you have a misfire it'll throw a code that you can read right in this app, or you can have it checked at like an auto parts store and it'll tell you what cylinder. Now also, like I was saying, this misfire is not frequent enough for it to throw a code. So we're going to have to dig a little bit deeper. First thing we're going to do is go to Settings, and this will vary a little bit for your vehicle. But then we're going to go to Manage Extra PIDs and Sensors. And what you want to do is go online to the Torque forums or just Google PIDs for whatever model your vehicle is. There's a pretty good pack for Ford vehicles, and you want to input all of those. And that gives other parameters for the app to read. And of course there's tons of settings in here for the Torque app that we're not really focused on. Now I've made the vehicle profile, I already had that made. That's not really drastically important, but if you're going to use the app more than once, I'd recommend it. And as you can see, we are paired with the app because our RPMs are going up and down just like they are on the real tach. And this is where normally you would go to fault codes and scan that and it would all work great. But we're going to go to test results. And now we're going to start seeing all these things, and it says scanning up at the top. And what this is doing is scanning all of both the built-in sensors as well as those PIDs that we put in. And we're going to want to let this scan for a while. And while it's scanning, we want to let it get all the way through at least once. We can start checking out some of the values, and like, don't get upset or worried if this one automatically says not okay because it says O2 bank 1 sensor 3. Well, it's looking for a sensor that this vehicle doesn't actually have, so don't worry about that. Scroll on down. Same with that, bank 2 sensor 3. There's only 2 sensors per bank on this one. And we are just going to let that continue scanning. I'll pause the video when it gives us something useful. Alright, so as you can see, we're now refreshing. We've scanned all the way through, and we have a lot more options. And we're just going to scroll on down here until we start to see what we are looking for. And this starts right here, as you can see, misfire, monitor, general data. There's a few of those, and then it starts breaking it down by cylinder. So this will say misfire cylinder 1 data, and this is for last and current driving cycles, and then an estimated one for the last 10 driving cycles. And there's a few more for each cylinder. As you can see, same replications, just with a different cylinder number in there. And now this, you'll want to leave this scanning and go and try and replicate your misfire. For example, I know this one, it's got a bad coil pack, so for some reason when it's humid it starts misfiring. And also when you have the truck in overdrive and it's really getting a load, like if you're going up a hill, it'll just start kicking like crazy. So what you're going to want to do is drive around until you get the engine to misfire, preferably more than once, just so you can be sure to get it. And then leave this scanning, and these numbers here, like this current 0, that'll go up to 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever. And so that is how you actually detect which cylinder is misfiring. Another possible way of doing this is to go back to the main menu of torque, and you can of course add all of the different gauges here under real-time information, and there's a misfire widget, but for the same reason it doesn't throw a check engine light, the misfires don't always show up on here. But it's just a really great app, allows you to view all sorts of different gauges. There's different ones available for every vehicle. And I'm just going to go ahead and sort of cheat a little bit. I know that my misfire is on cylinder number 5. And so once you have that cylinder number, you can start to sort of work your way down into what could be causing the misfire. If you have original spark plugs, that might be your issue. These spark plugs are moderately new, so I move on to the coil packs. And what happens there is the coil pack's just not quite strong enough to send that current into the spark plug, and it makes it misfire. It hurts your gas mileage. It's just really uncomfortable to ride in. So once you figure out what cylinder it is, you can start trying to actually narrow down what your issue might be. Like I said, for this one, I know it's cylinder number 5. I know it's a coil pack because I'm just slowly working through all 8 of them, and so that's the next thing to do, is actually fix it. But I hope this video has been helpful to somebody. It's a really quick and easy way to check which cylinder is misfiring on your vehicle, especially if it doesn't throw a check engine light. But even if it does, it's just a great app to have. This is Torque, and I'm using a cheap eBay or Amazon OBD2 scanner. So thanks for watching. Hope this was beneficial, and I'll see you in the next video.